They say it takes a small village to raise a child, but did you know you can also use a village to grow a small business? That's what one man did when he had what he knew to be a $1 billion idea and no capital to support it. Actually, it was two men, but whatever. What do you do when you have a business idea or a business that could change your life, change the world, but really don't know how to get it to the masses? You exploit your village. Welcome to our show, The Business Behind Small Business. Whether you're selling or staying, we're here to remind you that just because you own a business doesn't mean you are a business owner. We are your hosts, Savannah Stone and
Tiffany KO.
Sharing the more finite details of entrepreneurship, revealing the dots between startup and success. No one gets to $1 million without getting a little dirty. I don't know that I can ever say that without dirty. Anyway, there's a lot of business behind small business, so let's get to it.
I'm not going to judge you for liking that word. You go right ahead. Say the word dirty.
Dirty. Before we begin, please note our disclaimer. This is available in both our show notes and on our website and should be referred to before and or after this podcast. Before we get started, I feel it's important that we discuss the elephant in the room.
Or on the internet.
Better yet, the war waged on my interpretation of Smarties.
What is a Smartie, Savannah?
I mean, it ain't even right. We so appreciate our followers and our viewers and, of course, our commenters. And I especially appreciate being called out when my ignorance on a matter comes to light. Let it be known that my most international experience is shopping at World Market. So forgive me when I do not know what a British version of Smarties is, and that it's the same as the American M&M. I didn't know that. My exposure to Smarties here in the U.S. shaped my understanding of what Smartie candy is, and for that, I apologize.
Those little tarty, chalky pieces of candy in that clear wrap, like that's what I thought a Smartie was, but apparently I've been living in America for way too long.
Apparently, it was pointed out to me that a quick Google search would have told me exactly what a British Smartie is. However, I will also apologize for not having checked in on something I was unaware that I was supposed to be checking in on. So I promise to do better. I mean, you don't know what you don't know, right? And that was me. I did not know about British version of Smarties.
So this is us officially issuing a correction on our last podcast episode. And then and the world shall continue to turn.
Let's hope so. Also, we do hope that you are enjoying our new format where we are putting a larger light on a famous example that is connected to our topic. Because of time and because it's not the main focus of our show, we do leave a lot of details out, which is why we share the compressed version or a portion that is the most connected to our topic. And then we share the links with you and our show notes so that you can learn more from there. For example, our last show on the Mars family and their rise to success does not include some other main characters and their contributions, but that was, of course, because it didn't make sense to what we were talking about in the show, nor did we really have time to expand on that, meaning those characters or those persons that were influential to the Mars family did not have a father-son connection, and our show was about working with your children. Ergo, that's why it was not in there. Thank you so much for watching our YouTube videos, listening to our podcast, and of course, our YouTube shorts and commenting on all the platforms. We always want to hear from you. Feel free to share with us what you would like for us to do on our show. After all, we are here to help you grow and strengthen your business. And if I say something wrong or if Tiffany says something wrong, I expect you to call us out. And with that, we're going to start our show.
We can take it.
We can take it.
What a Smartie scandal you had on your hands.
I mean, it was insane. I was like, gosh.
Not the thing you want to go famous for, I'm sure.
No.
But now I know. I feel like now I'm going to see Smarties everywhere next time I fly through London.
I will never make that mistake. Anytime anyone, like Halloween is going to be horrible for everyone because I'm going to be talking about it the entire time. Hey, did you know that the Smarties? Hey, did you know that the M&M? Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna be that person. Anywho,
And on to today's show and lessons learned from history.
yeah. Sabeer Bhatia was born in 1968 and raised in Chandigarh, India. His father was a captain in the Indian Army, and his mother worked for the Central Bank of India. He enjoyed a quiet, middle class life in India and attended a boys' school in Bangalore. Caltech offered him a transfer scholarship, so at the age of 19 and with $250 in his pocket, he arrived in the US not knowing a singular person here. Although Sabeer's intention was to go back to India after college to get a great job in India with an Indian company, he decided to get a master's degree instead from Stanford University. Soon thereafter, still not ready to go back to India, he got a job at Apple Computer. This is where he met Jack Smith. I will admit, I could not find a whole lot about Jack's childhood. However, it seems the two of them struck up a friendship pretty quickly. Every morning, Sabeer would come to work and stop by Jack's cubicle and tell him a story about how someone had just sold his company for millions, and he would say to Jack, "What are we doing here wasting our lives?" It was an easy question for Sabeer to ask, but not an easy one for Jack to answer. Jack was shy. He was a very shy person, and at this point in his life, he had a wife and children, and for him, there was a little bit more at stake. Starting their own business was petrifying, and at this point, both men, they were just cubicle dwellers. What did either of them really know about running a business or starting a business anyway? The doubt Jack had in his head did not stop his brain from moving. The idea of creating a software or platform that was so explosive it could change the world forever was exciting to him. Jack and Sabeer brainstormed possible ideas for a few months. They did their best to keep their ideas offline so they wouldn't get fired. Even though both men had personal AOL accounts, they couldn't access them through the office network. They both had to wait until they got home to share their ideas. So whatever idea Jack had in the morning that was incredible and he wanted to share it with Sabeer, by the time he got home, that idea had vanished. He had a problem. He had a sharing problem. He had a problem with the sharing ability of whatever he wanted to share. I know this makes no sense, but it will in a minute.
How many times can you use the word share in a sentence?
I don't know.
That was a lot of shares in one sentence. Wow. Okay.
So Jack called Sabeer from his phone. From his car phone. Sabeer responded after hearing one sentence, and I quote, hang up that cellular and call me back on a secure line when you get to your house. We don't want anyone to overhear."
Did he just say cellular?
He did. I mean, we're talking what, early 90s or mid 90s?
It has to be in the 90s. We're talking about car phones and cellular and AOL being tethered to your physical computer, which is something I'm sure the kids today cannot even fathom. But yes, that was an actual thing.
It was. And it's hard to believe that there was ever a time in which you couldn't just email someone or send or even send a text. But you couldn't text back then.
I cannot believe we grew up in that. It's great.
I know. And the funny thing is that their idea was not brilliant. It wasn't a brilliant idea they had. Anyone could have come up with this idea.
So nothing that the government would tap into the cellular line to listen to that he was so paranoid about?
I can see why he was paranoid about it, and we'll get into that. You'll hopefully understand why he would have gotten paranoid about it. But the interesting thing is that this idea it was huge and small at the same time. Like, why didn't I ever think of that? It was one of those inventions. But this story is not about the idea. It's about what they did with it. According to Stanford Magazine, in mid-1995, Sabeer began shopping around a business plan for a net-based personal database called JavaSoft. Venture capitalists were skeptical of the software market, though. Too hard to get good distribution and rise above the fray. This is when Silicon Valley was really at the height, when there was so much motion going on.
And these were two guys,
and these were two guys very small voices, basically, trying to be heard in a crowd of thousands.
It's like Wild Wild West. I mean,
Really kind of was.
today it's exponentially bigger. Back then, I mean, relative. Back
Yes.
then, it was still pretty big and a really, really Wild Wild West feel.
Hmm. So when Jack and Sabeer came up with the Hotmail idea in December,
Ooh.
JavaSoft became, in effect, the front for Hotmail.
Is it Java or is it Java?
I'm going to say Java.
Huh.
Java,
No,
Java.
you're
Tomato,
probably
tomato.
saying it right in the how like American like pronunciation rules are because it's
Maybe,
Java.
maybe.
But then as we do with American language, always we would probably just say Java too.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe it's the Midwest coming out of me because I also say
Maybe.
room and not room.
Ah,
So there's that. Now everybody's going to hear it.
okay. So interesting that I think people take it for granted today what big deal Hotmail was back in the day when it first came out.
It really was hot. I mean,
Yeah.
how well named was that? Hotmail. Sabir knew that Hotmail was such an explosive concept. He didn't want a less than ethical VC to reject him and then turn around to copy his idea. So
Hmm.
that would be the reason why he was like, get yourself on a secure line. Because, like I said, this was a huge idea that was so simple. It was like, oh my gosh, anybody could have done it,
Well,
right?
simple to us today too, right?
Yeah, but also
Yeah.
simple within their industry.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. So he kept showing JavaSoft, and only showed Hotmail to those VCs he had gained respect for. As he says, I got to see how their minds worked. If they rejected JavaSoft for some stupid reasons, then I said thank you and left. If they rejected it for the right reasons, then I showed them Hotmail.
Hmm.
At Sabeer's first presentation to Steve Jurvetson of Drake, is it Jurvetson or Jurvetson? Now I'm going Swedish.
I am so sorry that I made you doubt yourself.
Yeah,
Jurverson?
no, I don't
Jurverson?
know if I'm saying
Jurverson?
anything right. Thanks so much. Anyway,
Love you.
at Sabeer's first presentation to Steve Jurvetson of Draper Fisher Jurvetson, things weren't going well. But Jurvetson was rejecting JavaSoft for the right reasons. So, late in the hour, Sabeer played the Hotmail card. He mentioned it ever so subtly, characterizing it as a marketing tool. Jurvetson wasn't fooled. He saw the pot of gold. In June, with the product ready for launch in a month, Sabeer was running out of money. But he knew that if he launched the service first, he could keep all the leverage over his investors. He convinced all of his first 15 employees to work only for stock options. Not a very common occurrence in the Valley, where the unemployment rate was zippo and most jobs came with pay and stock. My greatest accomplishment, Sabeer says, was not to build a company, but to convince people that this is their company. I showed people how this ultimately would benefit them. I didn't do the work. We initiated the avalanche. They launched on July 4th of 1996, Independence Day. It was a fitting date because Sabeer and Jack believed free email was a great populist tool. By then, everyone who owned a computer had email, but with webmail, you could log in from anywhere. So, let's step back from this because, again, we're going to assume that there are listeners that maybe don't even remember this because, to be honest, I've forgotten that that was a thing. That if you wanted to get into your email, you had to wait until you got home to get into your email. You couldn't
Yeah, 'cause your
log
account was
in.
tethered to your
Yeah,
the only computer you installed it on, basically.
exactly. Exactly. So during brainstorming about what to do, Draper from the venture capital firm funding them had the idea of putting a message with a link at the bottom of every email saying, and if you remember what the saying was, bonus points to you because I remember this when I got my very first Hotmail. P.S. I love you. Get your free email at Hotmail. He also proposed the link was persistent with the mail conversation when the mail conversation went on. So that morning, Sabeer and Jack wore beepers programmed to flash every hour with the tally of new subscribers. The first users found it all by themselves. Then they told their friends. 100 in the first hour, 200 in the next hour, 250 in the third. The idea was so intuitively powerful that 80% of those who sign up for Hotmail say that they learned about it from a friend. The success of this initiative changed the destiny of Hotmail, bringing the company to exponential growth. The idea led the company to massive growth, and the number of subscribers was around 8.5 million in December of 1997, 1 year after the launch of the service, when Microsoft acquired Hotmail for an estimated 500 million. Hotmail, which is now Microsoft Outlook, revolutionized the way we communicate and interact with each other, offering freedom to users to access messages from any web browser. Pretty cool, huh?
Thank you, Sevana, for the blast from the past. Now I recall what it's like to be in the 90s. Hey, but Hotmail did something pretty awesome. I actually read about their story a little while back, and I was kind of inspired by their marketing cleverness. And now I know what you mean by exploiting the village. So essentially, they basically, created something kind of viral that went on, or what we term as viral now. Back then, I guess the word avalanche is how you describe it.
Yeah.
But essentially, it grew exponentially fast. And the reality is that that was probably a unicorn. But there is a lot of power behind referrals, as you can see. And even though they did it in a very clever way by email, a lot of businesses can do really well if they pay attention to how they're actually getting referrals. I know for myself that whatever business I'm in, referrals is always the fastest way to pick up business. Because everything else takes time, whether or not you're doing social media marketing or you're doing email campaigns, anything else, it just takes a lot of time. And if you think about kind of how to get people to buy from you, it's really just like 3 stages. It's know, like, trust, and buy. And so when you have a referral partner or somebody who's willing to make you a referral, you kind of like breeze through the first 3 steps and you get to the trust, which makes you that much closer to the buy.
Right.
So that's why it's so powerful to have. Now, I guess none all of us has a email idea that we can generate and copy off of them. But I think we can take a few tidbits from their idea to apply to our real lives, right? One is, and there's, even if you're business to consumer versus business to business, I think it kind of all applies, because referrals just means that somebody is coming to you for business because somebody they trust said, hey, it's a good idea to go buy from them. And we call those people referral partners. These are people that's kind of in our orbit that sometimes may even do the same thing we do. Maybe the same thing as your business. Case in point, like Sevana and myself. Technically, when we had a business, you can say that we're in the exact same industry in outsourced accounting services, but we serve different types of businesses. And so that actually made us referral partners to each other, because what I can't service, I send to her, and vice versa. And so referral partners doesn't have to be they can still be competition, but just not in always direct competition, or there's minimal overlap so that they can actually refer business.
Absolutely.
So that's probably the easiest thing to think about, is maybe who in your circle, in your industry, is already inundated within the same work that you do, but is somebody you can be friendly enough with, so that you can strike up a referral partner with them. The other thing is to search a little farther out. Now, this is the part I actually really do like is, and I've talked about this with a couple just newer business owners who are like, how do I get started? The first thing I tell them is, think about the people that intersect with what you do. So for us, because we're in the accounting industry, it's a little easier to speak to. But for us, it's not just other CPAs or other accountants. It could also be bankers. It could also be business advisors and coaches. It can also be CFOs, outsourced CFOs. Actually, some of my best referrals came from an outsourced CFO. It could be just things kind of a little bit farther out that you feel like may not have a direct intersection with your business, but they can still make great referral partners.
Right. And I think that if you think about, if you give yourself the challenge of saying, think of 5 different industries or service providers that your client would work with. What are those 5 different? You're not the only one that can work with this person. And I think that can go with a business to consumer as well.
Yes.
But we're speaking to business with this. And even though the Hotmail is a business to consumer example, where we're talking business to business, but I think in any situation you're in, let's say you're an electrician. Well, who else would they work with? They would work with a real estate agent. They'd work with an
Mm-hmm.
insurance agent.
Maybe a home inspector.
A home inspector.
Mm-hmm.
These are all the kinds of people that they would work with. They have family members who probably also have homes. So those are the ways in which we want you to expand your thought on who could be in your referral village.
Yeah. So when I was doing this exercise for myself, even though I didn't really know what I was doing, but I kind of did it naturally, right? Because I'm kind of like, it's great when I get referrals because they're usually fairly easy closes, especially
Right.
if your referral partner actually knows what you do and they can refer somebody that's kind of a good fit for you. And I thought, wow, this is definitely the way to go. Yeah, it takes sitting down and just being kind of creative about it and thinking about all the people that your future client, your potential client also touches, who could serve as somebody who is that, I hate to use that cliche word, trusted advisor, but serve as somebody that they will listen to and call up
Right.
and say, hey, who do you know for this?
Right, because
Yeah,
then the person who's in your village basically becomes an advocate for you and
correct.
warms up the sale, if you will.
Yeah.
Same as we would do for our referral partners.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'll use the electrician with a home inspector. Home inspector is going to tell you you really need to get your electrical outlets taken a look at, because if you're planning on moving and something goes wrong here, it could cost you the sale. They're already advocating for the electrician.
Yes.
No different than say a banker, or yeah, let's say a banker for me, or for once upon a time
Mm-hmm.
you would
Mm-hmm.
have been like, hey, you might not get the loan you want. You won't be able to expand your business if your books are crap. So you
Yeah.
need to get somebody who can
Yeah.
do your books well for you. So
And I also found really helpful too, people who can be referral partners may not be somebody who does anything close to your realm, but they have
mhm,
interaction with your potential clients. And it
right.
could just be that that person is just really likable and they have a great network
Yeah.
about them.
Yeah.
And they're the people who know somebody will just call up because they have integrity and whoever they
Mhm,
say is good, somebody will take their word for it and basically say done, sold. Who is this person, right? So
right.
sometimes it's also a personality fit of finding and also being yourself, like a
Yeah.
super connector in a sense, or somebody who just connects others, and then you are really expanding out. Now there are other ways too, is there are some more straight to the point, which is you can also create referral incentives. So if
Mhm,
somebody's going out of their way to refer you, you can think about a referral commission of some sort or some kind of thank you, maybe $100 gift card or a $50 gift card or something to give somebody the incentive that they, can refer you and get rewarded. Now, the great thing is most people don't really care so much about the reward. I feel
right.
like in business to business, what's important is actually trust and integrity, and you do a good job and you don't make them look bad.
Pay it forward is
Yes.
more the thing.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
feel like with those kind of incentives, like I see it works so much better when it's a business to consumer.
Yeah.
If it's business to business, typically it is a pay it forward mentality. I do
Yeah.
you one solid, please do me one solid back.
Mhm.
And so I think in business to business, it's, you yourself should also be a great referral partner for somebody else. And that
Mhm.
kind of goes around full circle eventually.
Right.
Yeah. The other thing too is, somebody asked me a really great question one time, and they were out networking, and you know how it is, like you go out networking and there's everybody at these events, and
Yes.
not everybody will be your client or be a referral partner, right, for you. And I was giving the advice of, like, don't write them off. Actually, first of all, you never know who knows who. So that's the
Right.
one thing that I always enjoyed, like meeting people and getting to know them, because they may know somebody else. And so they may not be a referral partner or your future client, but they may know somebody who would be. So you
Mhm.
can always ask somebody to meet your referral partner that's
Right.
maybe 1 degree separated. And
Right.
that way you don't feel like, oh, why am I at this networking event? No, I don't want to meet anybody. There's nobody here I want to meet. Well, technically everybody's an opportunity.
Mhm.
And you should make the ask. Now, the other thing is, this goes back to networking etiquettes. To build a referral network or a village,
Mhm.
as you call it, there's got to be some follow up and touch points. Before, I felt like it was It was a little bit more manual to have that personal touch. I know some great real estate agents, insurance agents, people who typically have like a really big referral network, sit down and do the work. They have their, it's still called Rolodex.
No.
No, somebody has a Rolodex somewhere or index files, whatever. It was like 15 years ago, right?
Okay.
But they're I've seen them be really successful because they're so conscientious about reaching out to their referral networks and having that touch it. Now, I am so glad to say in this day and age, we have software and platforms for that.
Yes. Virtual Rolodexes.
Yes, virtual ways of being able to touch in and staying in front of somebody, because that's the one thing about referrals. They can come really quick or really slow.
Yep.
And sometimes it's just when the opportunity presents itself. So you never know when the opportunity is going to present itself. And it's really easy for somebody to forget you, even if you made a great impression just a month or two later, because everybody's busy. They got lives going on. So using these platforms like LinkedIn, I would say is probably a pretty good platform to kind of keep your referral network warm. As much as I admit it, social media postings and stuff like that is such a challenge. Such a challenge.
I try. I keep forgetting myself, so it is.
Well, I've kind of given it to the point of no more like, I don't even follow the rules anymore, because it's just like, they're like, oh, you got to be consistent. You got to post the same time. It's just, oh my gosh, guys, if you hate doing it, what is the point?
Right.
So, and to be quite honest, I've been watching my metrics and like, it doesn't make a difference. It's all the same. So I'm like, I'm going to post whenever I feel like it and when I'm happy to, because then my post is actually a lot more interesting that way. But the idea is, like my funnel, I suppose, for when I meet people is, get their business card, get to know their contact, send them a nice email so that they actually have your contact in their email. Because how many people go searching their email to find contact information, right? Let's be honest. Right. And then always add them to my LinkedIn network. Right. And then that way, when I post on there, it'll show up on their feed. There's another way to stay connected. I found that to be incredibly effective in the last couple of years.
It's almost like fishing, right? Like you're not going to go to the ocean to find the small fish. I mean, it's going to take you forever. Yeah. Go to the kind of lake or whatever to find what you want specifically, and hone in what you're capable of, what you're good at.
And that's the thing is, if you post about what you're good at, what you do, and how you help people and what value you bring, you do that enough, that sinks in people's minds. So it's so much easier than having that. There's only so much time for one-on-ones. I'm going to say I can't have one-on-one. I don't even care if you have Zoom these days, right? Like one-on-ones just take time, right? You have like 45, it's got to be at least an hour.
I mean, you can't do it less than that. Otherwise it becomes rude.
It's offensive. Like, okay, so you can probably get away with 30 minutes if you really push it and you're really like specific and to the point. But in my experience, it always goes over. Now, I appreciate a good, effective 30-minute one-on-one. And the way like I work those is you have 30 minutes one-on-one, but there's got to be something following up so that you have yet another interaction, because you just can't get enough in 30 minutes.
I don't know that I could do 30 minutes. I feel like in 30 minutes, no. Because I go to a personal place. I go to a personal space.
Okay.
I like to talk about personal things, not personal, but like I like them to share with me
the personal interaction,
their lives. Yeah. I want them to share with me and feel very comfortable with me, to get a sense of who I am.
Yeah.
Before we talk about business and ways in which we can interact and intersect. So that, to me, like I can't do it in less than 45 minutes.
Okay. Well, I can only speak from like the experience I've had recently, like in the past year or so. I've kind of kept it to about 30 minutes, 45 minutes. It used to be, an hour and a half, which I really enjoyed the conversation. Yet at some time, I'm not really sure if the time was being effectively spent on both parties. So, what happens is, this is how I structure my one-on-ones now, just if anybody is interested. And I feel like it's been working out really well is, first of all, you get on a one-on-one and everybody knows what you're here for.
Right.
To be honest, right? We all know what we're here for. We're here to figure out if we can do business together or how can we help each other's business. And it's great. I love it. That's amazing that you get opportunities like that. And so typically, like, if we're talking about 30 minutes, right? It doesn't always work out this neatly, but let's say proportionally, 10 minutes of it is about them, of course. 10 minutes is about me and the business. And then I always structure it so that the last 10 minutes, which always turns out to be like 15, 20 minutes, like, nobody really talks about themselves for 10 minutes. It's always more than that. Is then we talked about, and I'm really upfront about it. I was like, hey, I would love to end, at the end, I want to spend more time really going through and talking about how we can help each other and how do we see ourselves working together and brainstorming that. And I think that has been so nice because that's where we spend the time. Not that I don't want to hear about the personal stuff. I do. And that stuff seeps in too, because as we're talking, we bring up personal anecdotes, but the personal thing sometimes can wait until the second or third meeting, especially after we get a great synergy about, how can we actually work with each other? Not just, well, what can I think about next time I go to a networking event? Like, who can I look out for you? Or what buzzwords can I hear? All the things that most people have been taught to say. It's to me, and again, this is my personal opinion, I feel like it's a little robotic and it kind of just falls over your head as quickly as you get off the phone. Right. But when you're in a deep conversation and you're actually thinking and brainstorming together about maybe we can do a talk together. Well, what organizations are you in? What organizations are you in? Maybe is there a panel that we can put together? Things like that. Or is there like a newsletter or an online Zoom call or a webinar we can create? Then that becomes much more concrete. And I feel like a much more effective one-on-one. And then together, you're either each other's referral partners or you're working together to attract more referrals.
That's actually not a bad idea. Is that how you got me in? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Is that what you did to me?
Got bamboozled. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I got bamboozled. No. What I'm saying, what you're saying, I think is fantastic because it opens up another opportunity for yourself and also an opportunity for them and then an opportunity for you together. So that
plus you're already seeing how each other work, right? You're really getting to see each other, how they think, how they work, and you can figure out, okay, what's the best way for me to refer someone? Oftentimes referrals come down to sometimes personality. It depends what type of business you're in. Sometimes it is transactional, but a lot of times when you're talking about intimate referrals, it is personality driven. So that also gets you to see what personality they're like so that, when the right referral comes around, you're making the right kind of matchmaking opportunity.
Oh yeah. Like everyone that I consider my referral partner is the kind of person that I would like to go have coffee with. Like they are genuinely good people that I also trust their work.
Yeah.
So, and it has worked out for me for many years, and as it has worked out for you, and it has also opened up new opportunities for you as well. So,
you so smart. Oh, thank you. I gotta grow somewhere. I'm slow in most things, but hey, every once in a while.
Aren't we all? We're all lucid at some points in time.
And it goes without saying that, one of a great place to cultivate a referral network is, and don't kill me for this, Savannah, is to join a group.
I'm not going to say anything.
Be quiet. Keep looking down. She's looking down. She's not making eye contact with me anymore because she does not want to hear this, right? But the right group can really kind of build you like an instant village. Now you got to pick and choose, right? There are some groups that there are some people will swear by, and some people will definitely stay away from. And we're not going to name them here because we don't want to bias your views.
Right. However, this goes back to the whole fishing analogy that I used. The groups are the same way. If you join a group that has too varied of industries, that sentence didn't make sense coming out of my mouth. But like the industries are too varied, it's going to become more difficult for you for them to hear you, to translate what you're saying into ways in which they can hear you about what it is you do. And it's going to be more difficult for them to find those people because they're just not in those circles. So you're right. You got to find the group that fits what you do and will likely have more people in it like you.
Yeah, so it's interesting because if you think about it, right? So in our positions and what we do, we are in kind of a trusted advisor role.
Right.
Which means it usually takes longer to establish relationships with us for people to buy from us because what we do is so sensitive.
Right.
Now, if I were in, let's say, a trade business, if I was an electrician or I was in the HVAC business or I was a plumber, these groups would be great. because there is a little bit less need for that trust, like that personal relationship before somebody will refer to you, because you can just exemplify what is it that you do. And people understand that right away. And it's not so much a personality match as in just quality of work. So I think it depends on who you are and what you do, but groups could work out for you really, really well if it matches what your industry is.
And the great thing is a lot of these groups allow you to come once or twice for free, or they'll have like a free event or something like that. So,
Yeah.
you can try them out, see if you like them. Maybe maybe somebody told you, hey, come to my group. I think you would do great.
Yeah.
You can go there once or twice, depending on what their rules are, and see for yourself if it's a good fit. Maybe your friend says it's a good fit, and for you, you're like, absolutely not. But, you never
Well,
know.
hey, look, so if I was a tax accountant, we're not tax accountants. I don't know if you've been listening to the show, we're not tax accountants. We're
No.
operational management accountants, and
Right.
stuff like operational focused, which, okay, wait, and speaking less technical, think, CFO, controller, that type of
Yes.
deal.
Yeah.
So, we don't do that. But if I wasn't tax accountant, I would be in every one of these groups.
Yeah.
Because that is something that no matter who you are, you will know somebody who probably needs a good tax accountant. And
Yep.
so when you're in these groups, incredibly powerful, because these groups have a set cadence of meeting. The more you meet somebody, the more, that's what they're actually banking on. The fact that if you have so many touch points, you establish that trust and rapport a lot faster,
Yep.
and people feel a lot more comfortable referring to you. So if you're in an industry like that, please go for it. Find all the groups in your area.
And it doesn't have to always be a networking group either. It could be an organization, like if there's an organization that gets together within your industry to do masterminding, or
Masterminds are
maybe,
great too.
like whatever it is, I'm sure you can find your hive that way.
Yes.
So,
To basically use kind of the sheer force of how that group works to establish that trust. And people always give business to people that they trust, because again, they don't want to look bad by giving you out as a referral.
Yeah, because you're
So
supposed to be their company's value add, just as they are meant to be your
yours.
company's value add. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It definitely works both ways. So
Well, are we ready to move on to books and
I
recommendations?
think so.
Yay! So there's a saying that goes, put your money where your mouth is. And we're going to drill down a bit further to connect what we've discussed at a granular level to tangible sources you can take to the next level. What you got for us, Tiffany?
So it's been interesting because when you were talking about the Hotmail story, I actually thought you were going somewhere else with it, which is fine, right? But it did remind me of reading Ryan Holiday's book, which is called Growth Hack Marketing. It's this tiny little sliver of a book. It's on my bookshelf. It probably is less than 100 pages, because most of his books are. He's not very. He's all for making it easy reading. But Hotmail is one of the examples in there about kind of their clever way of marketing going viral. So I'm not saying that book talks about specifically referral networks, but I do remember being incredibly inspired when I was reading that book about just clever ways to do marketing, like guerrilla marketing, that isn't what everybody on the internet is talking about. And
Yep.
again, it's about marketing. And when you go out to find and build your referral network, you're marketing yourself. That's essentially what it is. It's not a sales activity, because you're not closing anything at the end of it, but you're basically marketing. And so if you spend some time thinking about how you want to market yourself and read books like this, maybe I'll get you, your brain juices flowing. And thinking about, how can you be clever? I mean, I remember reading that Hotmail story and I'm like, that is so smart.
Isn't
I don't
it
know how I'm going to replicate that, but
I
it's
know
so
that.
smart.
I don't know that anyone could replicate it, but I mean, it was really friggin' smart.
Yeah.
I mean, they grew to, and we all know what they grew to, but
Yeah.
just with one sentence, P.S. I love you. Share this.
Yeah, which is why I like the book, because they also have other examples of kind of these kind of types of guerrilla marketing tactics that's worked really well. Now, again, obviously, they were in the right place at the right time in the 90s when there was no
Yeah,
webmail. Okay, you can't do that today. There's plenty of webmail. But again, like I said, you can draw some inspiration from it. So I love
absolutely.
that little tiny book. So Ryan Holiday, Growth Hack Marketing, get a copy.
All right. Well, I give a very truncated version of Jack and Sabeer's journey in creating Hotmail. So I have quite a few links that will be listed in our show notes. These are all the links that I used in part of my research to to pull from for the show. So you need to take a look to learn more about this incredible story because there is quite a bit about Jack, but there's a whole lot about Sabeer, and this man is fascinating too. So I also suggest reading Building a Referral Network by Wali Sharif and How to Sell Through Networking and Referrals by Andy Lopata. I also suggest that you make a list of the. I also suggest, according to what Tiffany had said, that you make a list of the kinds of service providers or solutions your clientele would use. Take that list and start reaching out to people in those fields. The more connections you make, the more your referral village is going to grow. It doesn't matter if you're in a service or sales industry, if you're B2B or B2C, working together with other companies that may also work with your clients will help solidify your relationships, and they're going to create your village. Also, you may want to consider becoming partners with other shops that are located near you. So like if you're in a brick and mortar and or you are B2C, or even if you're B2B, maybe you could host a barbecue together for your clients, a flash market, some kind of an event to get people to come out and see you, enter your store, and to also bring people into the stores around you. This kind of camaraderie could bring sales to you and to your neighbors, which is what a village at its core does. Cross marketing, co hosting events with companies that have no affiliation with you will broaden your reach. So it kind of speaks to what you were saying, Tiffany, about hey, what can we do together?
Mm-hmm.
This is one of those things that if you have a brick and mortar, this is one of those things that you could do together.
Yeah,
So,
help each other out, pay it forward. I help you,
absolutely.
you help me, everybody wins.
Yeah. So, speaking of paying it forward, please hit those like buttons and the follow buttons and tell all of your friends about us. Our show is on all your preferred podcast platforms, social media, and YouTube. We'd love for you to also share our episodes. All of our links are posted below. Until next time, mind the business behind your business because all great successes start small.